So I'm doing this one live. Many people want to hear this story. It's been going on for a long time. And I'm doing it live because I have a feeling that people are going to want to ask questions. And so I just thought it'd be better this way. But I'm just going to go and tell you guys a story. And for those who are not watching live, hopefully you guys can hear it later. Very interesting story. You guys always know, and before I even start, if I happen to give any, I'm not going to give any medical advice or make any claims or against any product or products. All right, let's just go ahead and start. So this story has a lot to do with this necklace that I'm actually wearing. And the story is a funny one because there were zero intentions as far as what ends up happening. So what ended up happening was there was someone that I knew through an acquaintance, and all this, by the way, going on in Japan. And this girl has like these, I guess, issues that she really felt that she needed help with, probably more emotional rather than physical issues where, as far as medical care. And so she really felt like she had a lot of stuff to work through. And she met somebody who is, I guess, intuitive, psychic, whatever word, you might want to put upon it. And by the way, for those who are just entering, I'm doing this live so that if people have questions, you guys can ask them, during this live session. So anyway, so they wanted me to actually be present when this particular woman was going to talk to her and try to help her. I don't talk about it a lot on my channel, actually almost never, but let's just say that I have certain intuitions. You've got to adjust this phone. It looks like it's sliding. It is sliding. Oh no, it's going to fall off the thing here. And they wanted me to be present because they didn't want to be like duped or taken advantage of by somebody who's claiming to be intuitive or psychic. Northern Yeti says, I think it's just me right now, but can't wait to hear this. This is a story that I've been contemplating on sharing for quite some time. And so what ended up happening is I ended up going to this person's home because this girl, went in there to spend time with her and whatnot. And then I ended up taking time. I should probably use the people's names so it doesn't get too confusing with people. I'm just calling it the psychic person, this person. But the girl that needed the help, after her spending time with this supposed psychic, my intuition and what I was really feeling is that this woman was not really going to be able to help her. The psychic girl is not going to help the girl that needs the help. And she asked me about it, and I gave her my honest opinion, which was, I just don't think this person's really going to be able to help you. And then that supposed psychic said, you know what, he's right. I'm not able to help you. But the person who can actually truly help you is my sensei. So what they're saying is like my sensei's sensei. So like their master. And then I was like, oh boy, okay, here we go. Because just so everybody understands, when you watch my channel, I'm a really big skeptic. I think that there's a lot of people who take advantage of people out there, from the world of supplements to the world of psychics to the world of hydrogen, to doctors and the pharmaceutical industry too. I mean, these are just my opinions. Remember, everything today is my opinion. And so I cared about this person, and I didn't want her to be taken advantage of. So after this woman admits that she is unable to help her and she's going to try to set something up with her sensei, well, apparently, and by the way, thanks for the thumbs up. I just saw some people give those. These senseis are not well known. Not only are they not well known, they actually try to be very private, and apparently almost nobody knows about them. Somehow they had trained this girl, and she did have some intuition, but again, the girl that had the issues had major problems. And then Slade says, only psychic energy worker I can currently recommend is Purple Energy. And believe me, I don't recommend almost anybody. I've had many friends who've gone to psychics and intuitive people for so long and led absolutely nowhere, wasted a massive amount of money. So I'm about to tell you the story because I think it's kind of important. So they set up this appointment with, I now call them the stone people, and you're about to find out why. So there was 3 of us that went on this initial trip. So we get in the car, we drive quite a ways, arrive to this cute little kind of house off a cliff, and there's a river running by this place. We go in, and this place is filled with all sorts of different types of stones. Very beautiful shop, really nice energy, nice environment. I get in, and it's a psychic couple. I've never really seen a psychic couple, really. You know, it's always one person or the other, but they work as a team. But I'll be honest again with you guys. I went in very skeptical, but I'm like, I'm here. You know, we're in Japan. It's cool. You know, go do something like this. The moment we get in, they take the woman who has the trouble. I'd like to get her name, but I kind of don't want to do that because maybe she doesn't want me doing this video. I don't even know. So they take the girl who's got the issues, and she goes with the husband. And they go to a very far end of this house or building or whatnot, this house. And they start talking and doing their things. And I'm just kind of hanging around this stone shop, just hanging out. I see her crying. I see her going through a lot of emotions, and they're going through this whole thing. All right. Here's where it gets really weird. The woman who is the wife talks to me, and she just says something out of the blue because I'm walking around the shop. I'm just looking at stones. I mean, I wasn't even really like a huge fan of stones or anything. I'm just checking things out. And she says something to me. She talks about my family and siblings. And she says, hey, you know, you have so many siblings. And it's kind of a weird thing to say to somebody. You know, typically if you're talking to somebody like, hey, hi, literally the first thing she basically said to me while I'm walking around is, hey, you have so many siblings. And the thought in my mind was, yeah, she's right. But I also have half siblings. So the thought entered my mind. I didn't even say a word. The thought entered my mind, well, yes, technically I have so many siblings, but I also have so many half siblings for a total of whatever. But I didn't say a word. I think I thought it took me like 2 seconds to think this. And she replied. So I didn't even say anything yet. She said, well, technically you have full-blooded siblings as far as same mother, same father. And then you have so many that are, you know, your half brothers. And she begins to explain in detail, you know, this particular part of my family. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd. And by the way, I've never met these people. The woman who had the issues had never met these people. The other person who was with me had never met these people. We never met these people before. And we never shared any of this information with the lady who introduced us. But here I'm still being skeptical and thinking, this is a practical joke. I started thinking, something's off here. How does she know this level of detail? But she goes into more detail. Then she starts saying things like, your oldest full-blooded real brother or whatever, you know, she's like, he's married to, you know, a woman that looks like this. And she starts describing what she looks like. And she's like totally accurate. And then she starts talking about their children and, you know, whether they're boys or girls or what they do. And then she goes into my other sibling and starts telling me details about this particular sibling. And then she starts telling me what kind of relationships I have with each sibling. I mean, and she is so right. She is not being vague. She's not being like, hey, you know, somebody's name who starts with a G or something. Like she wasn't doing anything like this. Everything she was saying was extremely accurate. Then she went into my parents, and then she talked about not only the relationship that I have with my parents, but things about them, things about so many different family members. Extremely accurate, right? And I'm such a skeptical guy that I was really honestly thinking that this is some type of like, again, I thought it was some type of joke. And I even said that to one of the people that was with us. I said, look, if this is some type of joke and you told them this information, and she was like, no, I've never met these people in my life. I swear I didn't say anything. And I'm like, okay. So she continues to talk. And then Slade says, my session with PE was somewhat similar. Okay. Vital insight regarding my state, and I hadn't opened my mouth yet. Okay, interesting. So I've never experienced anything like this. And I have talked to many supposed psychics, many supposed, you know, spiritual people. I've met and spoke to many throughout my life. Nothing ever like this. It gets crazier, by the way. So she's telling me all this stuff, and I'm still kind of skeptical, and she's sharing things. And then she gets into me, and she starts telling me things about me that I'm like, okay, not sure just anybody would know these things. And then she starts going into things that I'd literally been contemplating and thinking about for at least a month, maybe 2 months, but I hadn't told one person. And she brings up the subject and she starts talking about it in great detail. And I'm almost like, nobody would know this. So now it's beyond somebody feeding your information. I hadn't told anybody. So I was really shocked about these comments that she's making. And as this is going on, in my mind, once she really started hitting, I mean, she hit one thing and I'm like, 2, 3, 4. And I mean, it was one after another. It reached a point where in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually meeting a real psychic, not a fake one. Like, I think these people are completely legit at this point. It's really elevating my, I don't know if you want to call it faith or belief in whatever, they're doing or talking about. So then as I'm blowing her up in my mind, I'm really like, oh my God, like this woman is incredible. I want to be able to learn whatever it is that she knows or things that she can share with me. Inside, I'm starting to get like kind of excited here. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, right? Because there's things in life like that. So then as this is going on and I'm not even saying a word, she replies, don't think too highly of me. And I was like, what? Because that was exactly what was going on in my head. I'm like literally thinking really highly of this person all of a sudden. And this is where things get kind of weird. She said, everything that I'm sharing with you, and by the way, again, she shared a lot of detail. She said, everything that I'm sharing with you, I don't actually know it. Oh, and thanks for the thumbs up. Some people are giving thumbs up. She said, everything I'm telling you, I don't actually know. And I'm thinking, wait a second, what do you mean you don't know? You literally just shared in great detail. How is it that you don't know? And she said, what's actually happening is you have spirit guides and they are literally giving me all this information. She's like, I don't know any of it. I'm just repeating what they're sharing with me. And they're showing me. So they can literally like travel to where your family is. And that's why I know what they look like, because they're showing me these visions. And I'm just like, this is insane. I've never heard anything like this. And she said, there's some very peculiar things going on with you, but I kind of knew that you're not going to listen, because she knows how skeptical I am, apparently. She said, so this is why, and it's not even me that wants to convey the message. Your spirit guides are like, they really want to talk to you. They have so much that they want to tell you. And so I was like, okay, now I'm actually listening. I think if she would have initially said that, I wouldn't have believed it. And then she said, the first thing, so I'm going to share some interesting things with you guys and see what you guys think of this. She said, usually people have one spirit guide. That's very common. Everybody typically has like one. Once in a while, there's people with like two. And extremely rare, I don't even know if she'd ever seen it before, but she said then they have more than two. And the thing that she said was, just because you have more spirit guides, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing. Okay, just to clarify this, because everybody was like, oh, more is better, right? She said, people who have more spirit guides, it's because their life is going to be harder. They're going to go through really difficult trials and tribulations in their life, and they just need more help. So honestly, in my personal opinion, I don't think more spirit guides is necessarily a good thing from everything she told me. And then she opened up and said, because she's telling me that she's communicating with my spirit guides. And I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, so I got these guides and they're with me all the time, I guess. And she said, you have more spirit guides than anybody I've ever seen. You must have at least somewhere around the neighborhood of like 6 or 7. And because she said all of them are trying to communicate at one time. And it's weird because I don't think I shared this a lot, but unfortunately, I've made some not very good decisions in my life in my past. And one of them was when I OD'd more than once. I've been poisoned multiple times. And one time I OD'd. I was extremely poisoned, if you want to call it that. And I remember seeing these beings of light next to me, because I also had issues where my heart would like stop. And this is all part of, I guess, some NDEs, which I don't talk a lot about on my channel either. But I remember seeing all these beings of light, and I kind of started wondering, I wonder if those were the spirit guides. And they used to talk in like one voice. It was interesting. So she's bringing all this up though. And so as she's telling me this, she said, everybody's trying to talk except for one of them. One of them she said, is like an older female. She's kind of off to the side, and she just seems to always be there and watching over you and whatnot. And I thought that was interesting, because when I shared that with my mother later, she opened up to me and told me that she had made a prayer to her own mother who had passed, and she really wanted her to watch over me. And the way she described it was like my grandmother. So that was kind of odd. But anyway, so she goes on to tell me, hello, Eva. And then Slade says, yes, I am wary of spirit guides. They can betray us at opportune times to make us suffer and feed off our energy. Well, that's not what she was saying at all. So whatever it is that Slade is saying, that's not the message at all. And this is what I mean. I like to listen to very reliable sources. And I really felt that this woman was extremely a reliable source. And everything that they were sharing were good things. They were trying to actually be helpful, and they're there to support. And then Eva says, benefits of hydrogen if you have a stroke. This is this is not one of those videos, Eva, but I do have a really, really great multiple videos actually about amazing benefits from hydrogen for strokes. It's amazing, in my opinion, for strokes, dementia, Alzheimer's, a lot of brain issues and eye issues. So check out those videos if you would like more information on that. Because right now, people have requested this story. So again, so this woman's talking about the spirit guides, and again, the number and whatnot. And then she said, they really want to convey this message to you. And so the part that they conveyed to me is the only thing. And then Richard says, when are you dropping the new info on hydrogen? Okay. I will be dropping some new information probably within a week. So maybe 2, right around that. So this story is because of what a lot of other people had actually. And by the way, this story and things that happened are all part of how I was able to create the protocols that I created. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that also. So they shared some kind of private stuff with me at first, as far as some of the first messages that they really wanted to convey to me. Even the lady, the stone lady, I call them the stone people because of all the stones. Nobody really understood. She didn't understand either, but I understood. And I thought it was kind of interesting what they were conveying to me. Then after, talking a while and whatnot, she said, look, there's something that your spirit guides know that you need. And this thing that you're going to need is going to help you on your journey. Because one thing that I haven't also shared with my audience a lot, because what I share with you guys, just so people understand my channel is to simply try to help you guys with simple things. Understanding health, getting healthier, understanding water, the importance of clean water, clean hydrogen, safe hydrogen, and other little tips as far as health and whatnot. And that's ultimately what I was really trying to help everybody with, because people really need the help. And there's, in my opinion, a lot of terrible information out there about health. But I never really shared a lot of the spiritual side. And I had some very strange things happen, which I'm not going to get into today. But my whole journey started when I was around 7 or 8 years old. And that's the reason for a lot of the poisonings and sadly the ODs and all these things happen because of something that happened at a young age. And it brought me to this one particular point that I'm sharing right now about these stone people. So she was saying, look, right now you're kind of stuck and you kind of need some guidance. And I knew that was the case. And then she also said, you need to stop wearing, I had this bracelet. It was actually a gift from somebody. And it was a bracelet that looked like stones. And it had this cute little hole where you look through the hole and you could see a little Buddha in there. It was just a gift from somebody in Japan. It was kind of a cool little gift. And I was just wearing it. But I'd been feeling weird about wearing it, which was weird because I didn't think it'd bother me. But after wearing it for maybe a few months, things were kind of weird. And she even talked about it. And I didn't say a word about it because I didn't expect it to be connected. She said, don't wear anything that's fake. Apparently, in regards to like stones, because they look like stones, but they weren't real. They were actually made of plastic. And so she's like, you shouldn't be wearing that for, numerous reasons. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. She said it will make you feel fake and it'll make you feel kind of numb and this kind of weird stuff. And I thought, oh, that's very interesting. So I ended up taking it off and not wearing it anymore. And she said, what you really need to guide you on your journey is you need a stone bracelet. And I remember thinking like, okay, I looked at her case because they had a case full of stones. And there were many kinds of stones. And I saw the bracelets that she was talking about, and they were $600. Now I couldn't afford $600. And I was like, I'm really sorry, but I don't even think I even got the words out. I was going to say it's kind of out of my range, but I didn't want to say that. I was just like, oh, okay. So, and then even in my mind, I remember thinking, is she trying to sell me something? And if she is, this is unbelievable. She's an amazing salesperson, right? She's trying to tell me to get one of these super crazy expensive stone bracelets. But before I could really say anything, she almost kind of like looked up like something was speaking to her. And she said, I'm going to give it to you for free. You can't pay for it. It's not allowed. And I was like, well, I mean, I'd like to contribute something. She said, nope, end the matter. I do not want you thinking about money right now. I want you to focus on what the message is trying to be conveyed to you. And I thought That's interesting. And Crystal says that is pricey, and I completely agree, by the way. But it gets crazier. It gets actually kind of worse as far as prices. But so I'm like, okay, what are we supposed to do? And I just thought she had some bracelet she was going to kind of give to me, and I would wear it or something. She said, "This is what we're going to do." She said, "We're going to, in this case, there's so many stones. I want you to tell me what stones are calling to you." And I'm thinking, calling to me? Like, I don't know. I don't know anything about stones. I don't know which ones are calling to me or not. And she said, "I want you to just relax. Don't think about anything. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry," because I was nervous because I had a budget and I really didn't have a lot of money. Pretty much grown up like that most of my life. And I'm looking at the case and I'm like, okay, just try to relax and just feel for it. And I'm like, okay, I like this one. She goes, okay. And then she said, what else? And I'm like, okay, these stones. Okay. And she'd kind of start gathering them as I was choosing them. And then she pulls out from behind the counter, and Crystal says that was quite nice of her. Yes, it really was. But again, it gets, her kindness takes a whole other level, by the way. So we're getting there. So she pulls out these stones from behind the counter and she says, "Do you like these?" And they were really beautiful. They looked like super shiny, glossy black with like gold. It almost looked like a shooting star was running through them. Extremely beautiful. And she says, "Do you like these?" And in my head, I remember thinking, am I supposed to say yes? Am I supposed to say no? Is this a trick question? Because of all the stones in there, she grabbed these specifically. And I got a little nervous, and she said, "Don't be nervous. I don't want you to even think about it. I want you to sincerely tell me, do you feel like these are calling to you?" And in my head, I was thinking, these must be really special because they look really special. This phone is, I swear this phone's going to fall off this thing. It's sliding. Sorry, guys. And so I didn't really know what to say. I tried to calm down. I tried to feel for it. And then lo and behold, she says, or I tell her, I don't feel for it. I don't feel it. I don't feel like these are the stones that are calling to me. And she's like, okay. And I don't know, can you guys see this? I'm so sorry, but this thing is like really sliding and I don't have anything to hold my phone better. Sorry. Okay. I just don't want to fall while I'm talking to you guys. And it looks like it's going to. And if I tilt it, it won't work. Yeah, it won't work if I tilt it. This sucks. Okay, let's try this. Okay. So after I told her, no, I don't feel like these stones are calling to me, she said, "Do you know why?" And I was like, "No, I have no idea why the stones would not be calling to me." She said, "People who like these stones have greed in their heart." And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess it was a test of some sort. And so she said, "Let's move on. Keep trying to pick some other stones." And I picked a few. And that was that, right? And so then I thought she was gonna, I thought she just had maybe the stone somewhere and she was gonna, make the bracelet right then and there. And she, after we were all done, she said, "Okay, I'm gonna mail it to you, give me an address." And I thought, oh, you're not gonna give it to me right now? Okay. So then I started thinking in my head, like, she's never gonna send this, which is fine. I didn't expect anything from her. So we ended up going through everything. I leave and I received, I believe it was, I can't remember now, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks, something like that, a package in the mail. And sure enough, it was a stone bracelet with the specific stones that I had chosen in a certain order and everything. And then they gave me specific instructions. And here's where the story, in my opinion, gets more wild, because it was already very interesting, the things that she knew. I never did talk to her husband. So that was another thing. I never talked to him. I was curious, but we never spoke. I put on this bracelet, guys, and these were the instructions. She said, "Wear the bracelet all the time. You are going to build a relationship with this bracelet." And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm not going to build no relationship with the bracelet. But I would also talk to myself in my head, like, wait a second. Clearly, she is really good, and the information, she proved herself to you. So pay attention to what they're trying to tell you. I'm like, okay, I have to believe, or in what she's telling me, because I'm such a skeptic. It takes so much to prove things to me. She said, "Wear it all the time. You're going to build a relationship with it, and it's going to help you connect to your spirit guides more. And so this is what you need to do, and whatever." And I was like, okay. So I wore the bracelet, literally like every single day for like a year. And I'm thinking, nothing's really happening, right? I'm not building a relationship with this bracelet, but I continued to do it because to me, it was pretty clear that she was telling me the truth. So, and somebody's saying, show the stones. And I'm showing you these stones because the other ones are no longer with us. And I'll explain, what ultimately happened. So here I'm wearing these stones. And guys, this one I'm not going to share all the details about because this video is already going to be long. But if you want to hear more, comment below. So I ended up going with a friend who was having, I'm back in the US. I'm with a friend who's kind of struggling in his life. And I go with him and another person who I'll just say is my best friend. And we literally went to the river. It was in a canyon. It was a beautiful day. We're just hanging out. Like, again, nothing absolutely crazy. And then somebody says, what a wonderful story. Yes, we want to hear more. So we go to the river and we're hanging out. And I'm not kidding you guys. This is the best way I can describe it to you. Something felt like it was almost trying to communicate with me. But whatever it is that was trying to communicate, I needed to do basically what Jesus talks a lot about. And it's not just Jesus, by the way, but Jesus and Buddha and a lot of spiritual people. Because note that Jesus never really went around in the Bible saying things like, God be with you. He would always say the same thing. He'd say, peace be with you. And I could feel something trying to talk to me, but I couldn't hear it unless I was more at peace. And I was with my friends and I was like, you know what, guys, I'm really sorry. And I mean, I felt it strong. And I was like, you know what, guys, I'm going to take a little time away. I'm going to walk up the river by myself. There's absolutely nobody there. And I just felt like doing it. I can't describe to you. It was very clear. So I left and just walking and being peaceful and hearing the sound of the water because the river was right there. I'm literally hiking up right next to the river. And as this is all going on, I end up sitting on the rock. Now, that was a whole other story. I called that the day on the rock, and I won't go into great detail. But something crazy happened that day. So crazy that I had a hard time believing it, and I was witnessing it. So much so that I started questioning my own sanity. And so luckily, my best friend eventually joined me, and he got to witness these crazy anomalies too. And the fact that somebody was with me and I'm looking over it, I'm like, you're seeing what I'm seeing, right? You're hearing what I'm hearing. You're experiencing this, right? And he's like, oh yeah. And he starts describing the things because I was having, well, I'm not going to go into crazy detail about that, but this is what was interesting about that particular story. And I may touch on it more later. What happened that day is something that I've never heard in any book, in any movie, in any story. I'd never heard anything like it. And I was thinking there got to be somebody out there in the world that has experienced something like this. And many years after, I kind of was giving up. This has to do with the video that I did yesterday, even talking about what they call the Jesus diet and whatnot. I stumbled upon this book. It was actually somebody who recommended it. Now notice the title, The Essene Gospel of Peace. Peace is that key word. Okay, so I'm reading the book and I'm kind of not thinking it's the most amazing thing. All I'll tell you is that there's 4 specific pages because there's stories in this book about the man everybody knows as Jesus. Stories that you never heard, stories that are not in the Bible. I was even questioning whether this is real. Supposedly, this was from the hidden archives of the Vatican. This famous translator was able to translate some and release them on his deathbed. So there's a lot of skeptic people about it. I totally get that because if I were to read this and not experience what I experienced, I would also be very skeptical. But in 3 to 4 of these pages, Jesus describes exactly what me and my best friend encountered. It was bonkers. At that moment, I felt like I could trust the information in this book more. And that's where I took a lot of the tips because he talks about how you should eat, how you should deworm, how you heal the body, this type of stuff. And then Rocky says, thank you for sharing, Greg. I always appreciate hearing your spiritual stuff. Recently, I have been dealing with issues surrounding peace. Yeah, peace is so important, guys. And then the Vatican left out a lot, says Richard. And Crystal says, the necklace you're wearing is stunning. And I'm going to get into this one in a second. So that day happens, right? I get the opportunity to go back to Japan. And this is many years after the fact. I wasn't even going to go see those people again, but the opportunity came up and I was like, okay, let's go. Because of the previous session years before where they gifted me this bracelet and I followed the rules that they had told me to follow. And they had told me all these crazy things about my life and even things in my own mind that nobody would know. And all these different things, right? And then somebody's asking for the title of the book again. It's called The Essene Gospel of Peace. You can probably always rewind, and it's Edmund Bordeaux Kelly. So I'm actually really excited to see the stone people this time, because I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, they need to hear what happened to me. So I get there, and guys, this time was very different. I get there, and I'm not kidding you. Their shop was completely jam-packed with people with a line out the door. Somehow people ended up finding out about them, and they became extremely popular and or famous in that area. And so I get there, but this time when I went, remember I told you there was 3 of us the last time? I think when we went this next time, I keep trying to remember the numbers, but I think it was like there were 6 or 7 of us, maybe 8. I don't remember. I think it was 7, something like that. There was a bigger group because they had heard from the woman who was having kind of difficulties in her life. She told some of her friends, and then the word started getting around, and these people are like, you guys are going, we want to go. We want to witness this. So that's what happened. So we get there, and we literally are just waiting outside for hours until the stone people are done dealing with everybody there. And literally it's closing time. And it's like, oh my gosh, we just sat here till closing. So they close the doors, everybody leaves. And then that's when they come over to us and they say, okay, it's time for you to come in. And I was like, okay, I mean, I appreciate that, because, you know, and we get in there, and here I'm expecting, it's funny, it never goes as I expected. Here I'm expecting that I'm going to talk to the lady again, you know, the stone lady, the wife. But what ended up happening was the husband, which I never shared this part. I actually forgot to share this part. When she gave me the free bracelet, by the way, it was really funny because she had went through the whole thing, and he was walking by her because it was getting time for us to leave. And she told him, she's like, oh, I got to get this stuff and, you know, make a bracelet for him. And she was measuring, and she must have told him somehow that they were going to give it to me for free, because his face, when she said it, he was like, we don't give things away for free. You know, we are a business, and the only way we can stay open is by charging for things. But she made a comment, something like, oh, they told me to give it to him for free. And then immediately his face totally changed, and he was like, okay, and walked away. Like, he didn't question the spirits at all. And I remember that was always kind of something that stuck with me. And then, and Eva wants to know the information about the stroke video. Eva, I would just go look at all my videos in order. I literally just did a stroke one, like the last 5 or 6 videos that's in there. And we can talk about more of that later. But this is something that people requested, so I'm going to keep sharing this. So I'm back at them again, and I meet the lady again. I'm saying hello. You know, I thought she was going to maybe say something, but it was very quick where the husband said, it's actually your time to speak with me. And I was like, oh, okay. So he takes me, we go to the end of the shop, and he has this giant stone. He had a lot of different types of stones. And somebody said, yes, please continue. So I get there, and I'm sitting across from him. And there's like a desk or counter of sorts. And he said, I want you to put your hand on this really big stone. And again, me being the skeptical guy that I am, it's horrible, because I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm going to do whatever he says, but I'm kind of like, okay, like this will make a difference. So I put my hand on the stone, and then Solomon says, thanks, dear friend, for such beautiful stories. Looking forward to hearing more. Love and joy, peace, Solomon. Hey, brother, it's good to see you. And then he said, I want you to give me your right hand. So I put my right hand like this. So here's my hand on the giant stone, and here's my hand on the counter. He grabs some type of, it looks like a string with a stone on it, and he puts it above my hand, and it's about this far away from my hand. So it's sitting up like this. And he's kind of moving this on. And honestly, I'm just like this, thinking to myself, I'm not going to notice anything. You know, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, because if somebody starts telling me like, oh, do you feel anything? I'm like, no, because again, it's my personality. And I thought he was going to say something like that, but he's not saying anything. He's not saying, ooh, do you feel this? Is there something magical, you know, something like this? None of this is happening. And keep in mind that the other people who are with us, all of them are in the shop just kind of walking around. Nobody's really hanging out with me. I think I had one person who was with me. Everybody else is just enjoying the stone shop. And thanks for the thumbs up, by the way, if you guys like the video. So I'm like this. He's doing the stone thing, and I'm kind of not paying attention, like, okay, like what's going to happen here? What's he doing? I have no idea what he's doing. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? And I'm waiting for him to make some silly comment. And he said, look at your hand. Didn't you notice this on your hand? Now, granted, remember, he had not touched my hand. Okay. He had a stone above it, but he's never touched my hand. Okay. And I look down at my hand, and there's literally a circle underneath my skin made of light. It looks like it's made of, it almost looks a little rainbow, like a little, have you guys have ever seen oil on the ground? It looks a little rainbowy, but it was like that underneath the skin of my hand. And I'm looking at my hand like, I'd never seen this before. I know my hand. I'm just a little confused at this moment. I'm like, the heck is this? And the girl that was with me, she sees it and she's like, oh my God, what is this? And the guy's blown away by it too, apparently. So I'm kind of thinking, like, what's going on right now? And the other people in the shop, so remember, there was a bunch of other people. It was our group, there was a group of 7 of us or something like that. And they all heard this and they all come rushing. And so now everybody is around me, and including this guy. And we're all staring at my hand. And they're all like, oh my God, what is that? Like everybody's like, what is going on here? And we're all seeing it. And we're all looking at him like, what does this mean? Now, I'm not sure if I should share what it means. I know you guys are probably going to want me to do that. It's a little embarrassing because, yeah, but the point is that first I asked him, I said, do you even know what this means? He said, I've heard of it. I know what it means. He says, I've just never seen it before. This is the first time I've ever actually seen this. And so I was like, okay, so what's going on? He said, hold on, I want to go get something. And I'm like, okay. So he leaves and he brings back this, it's like, it's a kind of a special thing from the ocean. It's kind of like a really big shell. And he said, do you know what this is? And I said, not really, not particularly. He says, this is actually used to call in God. And I was thinking, what? Calling God? He said, when the timing is right, that's what this is supposed to do. It's kind of like, if you guys have ever noticed, in the Bible at the end of days when God returns or Jesus or whatnot, they talk about the 4 horsemen. And I think that there might be these 4 horsemen actually have to do with the 4 directions, meaning north, south, east, west. Because this guy said you're going to call God into every direction. That's what this thing is for. What I didn't realize, because it was kind of a very treasured item that he has, and even his wife thought it was odd that he was bringing it to me, because he says that, yeah, it was some type of shell and it was huge, but it was like perfect condition. I mean, it was, it has something to do with, like I said, calling in God, apparently. I don't know anything about it, to be quite honest with you guys. So the thing is that the circle in the hand has to do with something to do with that. In fact, it has something to do with, and this is why I didn't talk about it a lot, but this whole thing, and Chris was saying, yes, you blow into the end of the shell. And that's right. And he said that not everybody can technically do it correctly. And so he was even trying to do it and he couldn't, nobody could. And then he said, you probably won't be able to. It takes like practice and it's apparently difficult. It's not just like a flute. It's more difficult than that. And he handed it to me and I blew on it. And apparently I got it right. And he was like, oh my God, you know how to play this? I'm like, no, I've never played one before. He's like, you were making it work. But I'm not very good at those things. But so this circle of light on the hand has something to do with your heart and the closeness to God, if you want to call it that. I'm not going to go into great detail, but that's kind of the gist of it. And so I was like, okay, so his demeanor really changed after that moment. And then he said, you know what? I would really like you to, he invited me to his home. He said, I'd like you to come to my home and I'd like you to stay with us for a while. And I was like, I thought that was kind of weird because I got a bunch of people with me and, we got to drive back and we're pretty far away or whatever. And everybody with me, because they're all Japanese, they basically tell me like, oh my God, that's kind of a very unusual request because this is cultural stuff. And they said, this is like a huge honor. They've never asked anyone into their home and to stay with them. And I was like, oh, I mean, that's really kind, but I got all these people with me. And then he said, you know what? Let's have dinner. He said, we need to have dinner. I want to talk to you more. I mean, I'm telling you, when his demeanor changed, I can't begin to explain to you the way that he was kind of respectful the whole time, but it was like he became extremely intrigued by me. And so he said, let's go out to dinner. And I said, well, first of all, I don't want you inviting me to dinner. You're doing something very kind and we appreciate your time. And on top of it all, I got all these people. because he's trying to invite us to dinner as far as like paying for it. And he goes, "Oh, they're all with you, right?" And I said, "Yes, they're all with me." And he said, "Then they're all invited to dinner, and I'm inviting all of you." And everybody was like, "No, no, Sensei, we can't do that. We would like to invite you to dinner." And he's like, "No, I spoke. That's the end of it. Let's move on." And then it was like, okay. So we all got in the car, a couple cars, and we followed him to nice little place, local place, excellent food. And there's like this big long table, and everybody's sitting at the table, but he wanted to make sure, he said, "You're sitting with me." So we sat at, I'm trying to remember where, I think it was at the end of the table. And he had so many questions and asked so much and wanted to know about, I mean, there's just so many things that we were talking about. And he was so different than his wife. The wife, that's what I mean. It was so weird because she knew things, even though she said that she didn't. So as we're talking, he also said, "By the way," and I forgot to mention this is on the way out. He said, "By the way, you need something new. Not the bracelet anymore. We were kind of done with the bracelet. And by the way, the bracelet actually had broken. And so I collected the stones and I had them in a little pouch. And I can tell you guys what happened to that later if you want." He said, "Look, it's kind of like the way he said it was kind of like, you've graduated from those other stones. You now need a necklace." And it was funny because I had saved money and I had that $600 for a bracelet, thinking maybe they were going to want me to get a new bracelet or something. And the other one had broken. And he said, "What you need this time is you need a necklace." He said, "But this time, you're not going to pick the stones. I'm going to pick it for you." And I was like thinking, okay. So I look in the case where they sell the necklaces. This necklace was $6,000. I wasn't expecting $6,000, by the way. I was expecting $600. And I was like, I cannot afford $6,000. And I don't remember how I said it. I don't even know if I really said it that way. But he again stopped and he said, I'm going to gift it to you." And I was like, "Oh my God, I cannot accept a $6,000 gift. I can't do that." He said, "It's already been done. It's already taken care of. This is the way it's going to be. I'm going to make a specific necklace for you. It's going to have specific amount of stones. The number of stones," and the story actually gets even weirder than this. So it's 108. Apparently 108 is like a very famous kind of Buddhist number. So there's 108 stones, and then there's one, and you can see the center that is different than all the other ones. And so he said, "And I'm going to make it specifically for you. So, it's not something I'm going to give you right now." And of course, me, silly again, me, I'm thinking, is he really going to do this? Like, I'm being a little skeptical. It's terrible. But that's, in the world where everybody takes advantage of you, this is what happens. Especially, I grew up in like really, really terrible neighborhoods, and everybody was always stealing and scamming, and the whole world's full of scams too these days. You guys have seen it. So anyway, so we end up going out to dinner. We have a really great conversation, and throughout the conversation, he brings it up again. He said, "I really want you to come to my home. I'd like you to spend like," I thought maybe he was going to say like a couple days or something. He said, "At least 2 weeks." I'm like, 2 weeks? I mean, and I didn't have the time. It wasn't the right timing and everything else, but that's basically what happened, right? And then Crystal Shaman says, "Yes, 108 is divine with a Buddha bead as well added." So all this happens, and I end up leaving. I end up going back to America and everything. And sure enough, I think it was 2 weeks. I don't remember, but something along that time frame. I receive an extremely fancy case, and you open it up, and this stone necklace was there. And he said, "I want you to wear this regularly." And I was like, okay, so that's what I was doing for a long time. Now, here's kind of a weird thing about this story, because I actually had stopped wearing it. I was, this is kind of a sad thing, but, and I'm not going to name names, but I was around two people, one of which sadly passed away. When I was around them, this broke. And when it broke, which is what had happened to my original bracelet after many years of wearing it, and when the other one broke, I never did find all the stones. So when this broke, I immediately, from the moment I heard the stones drop and started dropping, I went down and started trying to spot every single one, because I wanted to save every single stone and redo this someday. So I gathered all the stones and I counted them, and guys, there were not 108. I could not find them. I don't know if they went under the couch, if they fell in a vent. I don't know. What I can tell you is I didn't have all 108 stones. So I took what I did have and I put it in a Ziploc bag and I put it in a drawer, which I just left there for quite a while. And during this time, of course, I was having a lot of medical issues already from the first time I met them, actually. And I'll talk more about this is how I create a lot of my protocols and the different things that I've been able to discover and being able to navigate this world of health, because in my personal opinion, there's so much bad information out there. So many people tell you to eat a certain way or take some supplement or whatever, and it was horrible because I had to go through that myself. And so anyway, so this is happening, and then just recently, I don't know if you guys have heard about this. It's called I think it's called the Telepathy Files. I think that's what it's called. It's some new Netflix movie documentary. And things get really wild because or it's called the telepathy tapes. That's what it is. If you guys haven't heard about this, it's really weird because it falls in line with all this. And Richard says it's about autism. Yeah, the telepathy tapes. And here's where it gets weird. So there's all these kids and all this stuff. Well, they apparently can do telepathy. They're talking to angels. They're talking to dead relatives. And they're proving themselves to be accurate. There's even a guy in there who apparently was like me, super skeptical, didn't really believe it. Well, this guy communicated with his long lost father, or this guy's father had passed away, giving him all this information. It was totally accurate. These kids were tested thoroughly. But there's this one kid, a lot of them are apparently quite spiritual, but there's this one kid that's like super spiritual. What's funny is that I saw these kids and I didn't know who was who, but there was one that I actually felt extremely drawn to. Like this guy and I are supposed to meet. And I don't get feelings like that too often. It really has to hit me hard for me to really try to do something about it. Well, this kid apparently was the most spiritual one of them all. And what's interesting is on certain spiritual, I don't know if I want to bring that up because I don't want to go off on a tangent, but let me just say that this is what happened. Apparently he's really into stones. And yeah, I've worn the stones. I remember the stone people. I've done all these things, but he's like really into them. And they finally asked him, like, why exactly do you need these stones or like these stones so much? And he's like, good energy, good energy. That's like the one thing he's always saying, good energy. And it was funny because one of the ladies doing the documentary, who was also very skeptical, basically reached the point where she's like, I'm believing this stuff because it's crazy. They're proving themselves, not just like once or twice, like easily over 100 times with pinpoint accuracy every time. Even being able to read people's minds, right? Which it's a whole other thing. So I thought to myself, that's right. I have this stone necklace. And then Richard says, what was the conclusion about the circle in the hand? Oh, so basically what it was, look, guys, he said it has to do with my heart and how close it is to God. And because, see, if you have a desire, this is my personal life, right? There's a lot of, I hate to say this, but there's a lot of things in my life that I'm just not really attached to this life. I don't have, like she even said, she tried to show me those fancy stones and she said, you don't have greed in your heart. I think greed is kind of ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous because we're all going to get old. We're all going to die. What's the point of trying to ruin the environment to make more money, screw people to make more money, and do all these terrible things, which, by the way, are going to rob you from your peace, right? And all I've ever really wanted since I was extremely young, when all this stuff happened, where it began, is I just want the best for others. I really, really, really desire that. I love to see people happy. I've been seeking happiness since a very young age. And spirits have showed me, I've done a lot of meditations, by the way. And yes, there's like angelic beings that I've encountered. And the biggest thing that they ever showed me, they said, how can you truly be happy while your brothers and your sisters are suffering? And that really hit me because it wasn't just the words, the way that they speak with like visions and like telepathically, and it's hard to describe. But she really described to me how important, how basically my happiness is actually kind of contingent on other people's happiness too. You can't just be like happy-go-lucky and the whole world is suffering. It just, if there's somebody that you really loved, whether it's your spouse, a really good friend, your parents, whoever, if they're miserable, it's gonna, if you have a child, it's hard for you to be super happy if your kid is miserable or whoever. So I always knew for a very long time that other people's happiness is very important to me. And this goes with the premise of what's in ancient scriptures, including the Bible, where it says like, love your neighbor as yourself. And literally Jesus said things like, this is literally the number 2 commandment is equally important as the first. which is to love God and love your neighbor. They're the same. And so it's a very important thing. So it's always been very important to me, and way more than a lot of, other things in my life. And so anyway, so this kid's really loving these stones. So the whole circle has to do with my heart and how close my heart is to ultimately God. And all I really want is his will to be fulfilled, to be honest. That's it. Do I know what his will is all the time? Definitely not. I just know that he has way more wisdom than I'll ever have, and that whatever it is that he wants is ultimately what is best. And that's how simple it is. And that's apparently the circle has something to do with that. And there's ancient writings that talk about this, which I literally recently started reading and has been blowing my mind. And that has to do with the ancient tablets of Thoth. So the emerald tablets, I've been reading the book on that, and it speaks of these things. So everything's coming full circle. It's really, really kind of wild. And there's so much more than even just that. And somebody just commented, this life is rented anyway. Yeah, I mean, that's the way that I see it. It's like the most important things in life are not necessarily accumulating things, right? Or causing harm to people. So anywho, so I hear these kids talk about the stones. It reminded me of my stone necklace. And the whole reason I had never put it back together was because I didn't have all 108 stones. But then I thought, you know what? Maybe it doesn't matter. I'll just get whatever ones I have. And I believe I was between like 4 and 6 stones short from what I recall, maybe 7 stones. So I go to my drawer, I get a tray, I grab the Ziploc bag with all the stones, I put them in the tray, and I start counting the stones just to see kind of how many I have, okay? And again, thanks for all the thumbs up. I noticed people are giving those. I hope that you guys are finding this helpful, because I don't really open up about this stuff a lot. But so I start counting the stones, and guys, I'm not kidding you. I counted them, and there's 108. And I'm like, I must have miscounted, because I counted them when they broke. I remember specifically counting more than once and being upset that I couldn't believe I missed that many. And so I count them again, and there's 108. And then I count them again, and they're 108. And I'm thinking, this can't be right. So I had somebody else count them. I'm like, I think I'm miscounting. And then somebody else counted them a couple of times. And I'm like, I'm counting 108. So I thought, this is really great, but weird. Somebody says, very auspicious gift. And then, yes, thank you for sharing with us. And Red says, you're doing fine. We're all here to listen. So I actually had all the stones. I literally couldn't believe it. So I just recently put it back together. And obviously that's what I have on. And I'm actually looking to visit the stone people again, but I don't really have any contact with them. You know, the funny thing is, I've never had their phone number. I remember, I didn't share this part of the story. I thought it was kind of funny. I was literally living in the US. I don't even remember ever giving them the address in the US. I'd given them an address in Japan, and then they had sent it to me later, somebody at that address. This is what's weird. This was before the necklace. When the bracelet had broken, I am not kidding you, 2 weeks later, a package arrived in the mail. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you that when I opened it, it was another bracelet. And I was thinking, wait a second, how would they know that my bracelet had broken or that something had happened to it? And of course, I'm thinking, well, of course they would know. And then they called. They called like, I don't even know how they got my phone number. They called like, I think it was 2 days later or something. And they said, we just wanted to make sure that you received the package. And I said, yeah, I did. But how could you? And I didn't even finish the sentence, because I'm like, how could you know that my bracelet had broken and that they just sent it to me like this? It was so weird. The whole thing was just like blowing my mind, a skeptic's mind, because I am the doubting Thomas. I'm the skeptic, you know. And then Solomon says, when you started the video, I noticed the butte. And then Richard says, don't cross those people. I know. And then Crystal says, oh, so sweet. They sent another bracelet. Yeah. And then later on, this was their big gift that they said that I should. This is an important one. This is the one to keep. And so now that I put it all together, I've been wearing it again, guys. And that's pretty much the story of the stone people. So next time, we'll see if I can find them again. I'm having trouble locating them. I've been trying. Haven't been able to do it just yet. I might even have to go to the town that they're in and rent a place and look for them. I don't know if I'm going to go, you know, that far. And if I do, maybe I'll record it and you guys can meet these people. But who knows? Maybe they're not even alive anymore. I mean, they were pretty old back then, and these was many years ago. But this has been a series of events and things that have been happening throughout life. And I also feel like I want to connect with the telepathy tapes, the lady and some of those kids, because they're describing things that I have also seen and witnessed myself. And there's more to it. And by the way, this all actually eventually comes down to the Pyramid of Giza. So the pyramid, which is interesting because these people, and before I keep going, I guess I should read the comments here. Somebody said, 2 years ago, a Native American bone reader told me I was connected to the stone people. What? Made me think of you when you said it. Thanks for sharing. That's really wild. Yeah, I call them the stone people because of all the stones. No, I don't think anybody else calls them that. Slade says, thanks for sharing. Best wishes. The kingdom of heaven is within. And that is also true. And then Crystal says, is your necklace made out of quartz crystal? All I know is that this is just pure crystal. That's all. That's literally all I know. And they were really selective with any stones in their shop about which stones they pick. Because I remember thinking the prices were so different than other places. But then they would show me crazy things. They would take the stones and I would look inside and there was things inside of them, like certain images. I remember there was one with like a pyramid. You know, nature made them this way and they were very specific about the ones that they chose. And they would travel the world looking for specific stones and they would have them shipped to their little shop. And it was like, that was their life, guys. And the crazy part, and then someone says, you don't remember where the shop was? I don't, because it was a 3-hour drive out of Tokyo and I wasn't the one driving. I didn't know how to get there, you know, and I asked some of the people who drove us, they don't remember. This was a long time ago and they don't have like the address or phone number. I think I might know the province, and so I'm going to go look into it more. And then Gina says, hello, what is the name of the show again? I don't know what that's all about. Oh, the telepathy tapes. So then I'm going to look for them again. And like I said, this one particular kid, there was, oh yes, the Giza pyramids. So the stone people had a interesting picture on their wall where they were with the Giza pyramids. And I've been getting a lot of messages about this. And now just recently, and when I say messages, it's when I meditate. When I meditate, I have all sorts of crazy stuff flood into me like all the time, pretty much almost every day. And I was, there's all these stuff that I've been getting about the pyramids for quite a while now. And I'm not even into the pyramids. So I don't like really research them. I don't really look into it. I'm not one of those guys, but the stuff keeps coming. And recently that big discovery about the under the pyramid, something going on. Well, what's weird is nobody knows how to enter that. And this is a pretty bold statement and probably nobody's going to hear it other than the people in this room, because I doubt this is going to go viral. I think I know how to actually find that. Not only it's not just finding the entrance. There's something that opens up what looks like a wall. So it just looks like a wall made of stone, but there's actually a secret entrance and there's a secret way to open it. And nobody right now in the world knows how to do it, is my understanding. I don't think anybody knows how to do it. And the way to do it is extremely difficult. And there's proof. So there's proof in both. It's actually, I'm going to give you guys a secret about this. There's actually, the proof is on the walls in a specific part of the pyramid. I'm not going to divulge where it is right now. It's a secret image. Almost nobody can see it. So that's why nobody's ever noticed. And even if you could see it, which you can, if it's proper lighting and somebody would point it out, you'll see that it's there, lies the secret of how to open the doors that lead into under the pyramids. And there's some crazy stuff down there. I can already tell you some of the things that are down there. How I know, I don't even know how I know, to be quite honest with you. And I have been having visions recently, and I've been wearing this a lot more, so I don't know if that's what's happening. It's almost like you're tapping into places that go beyond space and time. And all this stuff sounds really Looney Tune stuff, and that's why it's why I hesitate to talk about it, because my channel is always about a lot of scientific facts, just want to help you with your health. So I don't go into all this, but there's a huge connection between health and spirituality. We're designed for so much more, guys. The human body can do so much more than what we do, okay? And then somebody's saying some good stuff. It said, Solomon says, necklace is something special, just caught my attention. The light beauty of it emanates good energy. Sorry, I'm in good energy. He said, Crystal says, the necklace looks to me like it is giving off a beautiful light of sorts. Special necklace for sure. Oh, Solomon, you can see it too. Very nice. So that's where things are at right now. I want to connect with certain people. I believe that it's all going to happen at the right time. And the pyramids, specifically the Pyramid of Giza, actually, It has everything to do with something that big that's going to be coming. The key is going to be to unlock it and to actually know how to unlock and enter these kind of secret places that were not intended. That was another thing that a lot of the spirits have conveyed to me, is that not all this is intended for specific people. It's almost like specific people have certain things that they have to carry out in life. Maybe it's a president who has to carry out, something that he's doing, or maybe it's some scientist, and everybody has their path in life, and it's like a tree with branches, and it all eventually comes, to the back to the source or to the core, and we're all doing different pieces, in this life. And so I think that's about it, guys. That's the Stone People story. New Day says you should talk to Billy Carson. I've thought about it, and somebody says different people have different gifts. That's right. I've tried to communicate with Billy. I was actually on a show. Checkmate says, I believe beneath the pyramid is a temple or a portal. Not the way you think, actually, because as far as portals, I already found the portals. And that's the part I didn't want to go into. That even has a lot to do with this book, but nobody would understand it. By the way, I can not to sound weird, but nobody's going to understand what's in this book. Because the reason you're not going to understand it is because the parts that are super important, it's funny, Jesus even says that in the book. He's like, you're not going to understand these parts. So why he told us, I don't know. I would never understand except for the fact that I'd been there. So the fact that I'd already been to certain places that he speaks of, and then he writes about them, that's why I understand. If I had never been there, I would have zero clue, totally don't get it. And this is a huge part of the story, the book, but there's more than this book. And it is it's lying there by the pyramids. And Crystal says not a Billy Carson fan, but I'll tell you something. The reason that Billy Carson intrigued me is because he said certain things, and one specific thing, I'm not going to go into what he said right now that was accurate unless him and I do a show sometime. He said something that was correct, by the way. So he may not be right about everything, but he said something that was so correct that the whole reason I started following him is the whole reason that I was trying to reach out to him. He said something very specific, and he's right. And I don't know how he knows or how he even could know, because back to this book again, because part of it is in this book, and there's just no way you'd understand. And the fact that he knows, and I know, no offense to Billy, but I know he hasn't experienced it. There's no way he could yet. And so how would he know? He has either really good intuition or something's going on, but I'll tell you right now, it's very interesting. And him and I should talk. I do actually think that him and I should talk. But to be honest, I'd much rather talk. I don't even know the kid's name. I believe he's not even very old. I think he's 17 or 18. The kid from the Telepathy tapes, there's one specific kid. I really feel like we're supposed to talk and communicate. So that would be of more importance at first. But eventually, Billy might have a connection because he's had access to certain places in regards to the pyramids that they don't let everybody know. And somebody asking the name of the book, as I said before, it's called The Essene Gospel of Peace. And then somebody says, they gonna kidnap you? I don't know. Believe me, I've wondered about that, which is why I don't talk about it a lot either. But this is a small live video. Probably nobody's gonna watch it. And then Crystal says, hydrogen 144 is protected. It's interesting that you say that, because I have a whole other story, many things where I should have been dead many times over. And there does appear to be some type of protection. And according to the Stone People, all those spirit guides are literally there exactly to help protect me, because there's a lot of things that I've gone through and that I'm going to go through. And then Richard says, Audrey has a point. I'd be careful. Let's see, what did I miss that Audrey said that I should be careful? Oh, that they're going to kidnap me. Yeah, like I said, but I'm not really that worried. I've never really, like I said, I'm not really attached to this life. And if I'm supposed to be here, then I'm supposed to be here. Inner Mystic says, can meditation help to tune into the pyramid? Well, here's the thing about the pyramid. I don't want to get into crazy details about this, but the knowledge, there's a place that I was fortunate enough to go to, which is not on planet Earth, by the way. I know that sounds weird. And in this particular place is where the knowledge is that was required to build the pyramid. So that's why I have kind of inside information, like inside baseball, about the pyramid that I know nobody knows. I know they don't actually know yet. And I'm willing to divulge, but I really only want to do it on a very big platform. mostly for safety reasons too. And once it gets out, and that's just the way it is. Okay. Um, somebody says, Checkmate says, what is the name of the book? Oh, I already said that. And then Crystal says, I just don't care for him, LOL. Yeah, and I understand that. And then Slade says, I like Jason Brashears of Archaics more than Carson Brashear. I don't know. And then Crystal says, yeah, she named the book. 21 Truth is now, all is now says, it's always mixed truth and lies. That's how they get people. I mean, I would agree. Gina says, yes, no fear, peace be with you. Yeah, I mean, I'm not super worried. And then Crystal says, yes, sir, you are protected. 21 Truth now says, there is always truth to get from scammers as well. Yeah, sometimes. So take what you can and leave the rest, is what I say. It's okay, guys. I think that's the end of this video today. If anybody has any questions right now would be the time. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye. Somebody said, hit the likes, people. Yeah, hit the likes if you guys found this video, helpful. This is what people have been asking for. And we did talk a little bit about the whole kind of Jesus diet in the last video for people who really wanted to know about that. That information is also in this book. But basically, what Jesus tells you to eat in this book is things like fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, mushrooms, things of this nature. He really is against meat, and in this book, and he basically, the way that he words it is, it has to do with what you bring into your body. If you bring in death, you become it. That's basically what he's kind of saying. And this is why I have not been eating meat for a long time. And that's why when I was always doing my blood work, because I was concerned about having nutritional deficiencies. But then using the hydrogen with these type of diet that I've been doing, I found new research. It appears that literally my body's making nutrients, like seriously crazy, like vitamins. My body's actually making them, and I found data to support this. And when I was getting the blood work, that's what shocked the doctor so much, because I'd done it so many times. And she's like, how is this possible? Not only do you not eat meat, which she says I think is impossible to have this level of nutrients, she says you're not even deficient in anything. She goes, you know how crazy that is? And you don't eat meat? And she thought I'd been not eating meat for maybe 6 months. And I said, no, it's been like a decade or more at this point. So it's been a very long time. And it was an anomaly to her, even for myself. But with this new data that I'm finding about these protocols that I've been creating, it appears that I'm making my body make my vitamins. Now, if you can just imagine that, that's better than, even the way the farmers grow organic food, the soil's all depleted. And your body making it is probably the best vitamins your body possibly can get. And so that's part of, quote unquote, my protocols and whatnot. Somebody says, check out what Edgar Case says about the pyramids. Yes, I know. And that's, I have. And that's why I said the big thing. And then somebody says he breaks down the Bible really well. And here's the thing, guys. Like I said, there's something locked away in the pyramids. Actually, I think that there's a couple things. And I actually think I know it. I already think I know what it is. This is what's getting wild. But the biggest, most difficult part, nobody knows how to open the door to get there. They don't even realize that there's a door. And the door is most likely, I'm going to give you guys one of the hints, it's not even in the big pyramid itself. So that's going to just be like, wait a second. People are going to be shocked. Like, wait, if the door is not in the pyramid and we're trying to access what's below the pyramid, where the heck is the door? And I actually think I know exactly where it is, but I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to share that right now at this time, but maybe in the future. If anything, I'd like to share a lot of this with Joe Rogan because there's so much to share. I mean, I'm giving you guys just the tip of the iceberg. And then Gina says, where can you find the telepathy tapes? Isn't it the podcast? Yeah, there is a secret door, by the way. Yes. And it has everything to do actually with this whole notion of open sesame, except it's not, the word's not open sesame. There is a specific way to open this door. And I remember, because I won't even tell you how I found all this out. But anyway, somebody says Sphinx is probably guarding the entrance. Believe it or not, it's not the Sphinx. But if you would have guessed right, maybe I would have told you. I don't know. Richard says on YouTube. New Day says super cool. Thanks for sharing. So okay, guys, I think that's it. Maybe we'll touch on more on this later. But for right now, at least gave you the Stone People story. And 21 Truth says you don't need meat for anything. That's what most people don't understand. It's a survival food only if you can get what you need from actual sources. And honestly, there is food that is so beyond anything that exists on planet Earth right now. And I also believe I know, and all this stuff comes to me in meditations. And by the way, it's not just meditation, the hydrogen, by the way. So I don't know if you guys know this either, that there are secrets within the water and within hydrogen. You can access information. And I haven't really gone into that either. But there's food that will surpass any food that we know to man, that would be so crazy nutritious, so crazy good for you. And I actually know how to make it, but it would require a certain level of technology. It would require certain funding. In fact, I kind of wish I could be in contact with Elon, because if Elon wants to take people to Mars, they're going to have to grow food. And if I could show him these specific techniques and we develop the technology, I'm talking about food that we could create that will transform the world of health. Like, it will take it to a level that people can't even imagine because they've never seen it. They've never witnessed it. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of hard to believe, you know, even as seeing. And then Richard says, but ribeye tastes so delicious. Oh yeah, hey, don't get me wrong. It's not like I don't like meat, guys, by the way, but I am also very weary and concerned about parasites. Now, this is another one. I'll share this real quick, actually, because it's in this book. I did this really interesting anti-parasitic cleanse, and the stuff that came out of me, it literally felt like something was unplugging from my brain, and the clarity in my eyes and my vision. And it was so wild. And that's why I got deep into the research of parasites, and I created my own deworming protocols based on the latest knowledge from Japan, by the way. They have so much research on parasites. And guess who talks about it? Jesus in this book. He actually talks about the cleanse I did. Because I remember when I did the cleanse, I'm like, who came up with this? And he was talking about it back then. And so I learned everything about it. I invested a lot of money, a lot of time. I know exactly how to do these cleanses. They're kind of involved. And even my lifestyle, so you guys don't even probably realize this, but if you ever look at my smoothies that I basically consume on the regular, they're very anti-parasitic. Hydrogen water, a lot of people don't realize, in my opinion, based on some research I've seen, is also anti-parasitic. And I live a very anti-parasitic lifestyle because I don't want these things clouding my mind. So with that being said, guys, and then they said, what was the cleanse? Well, it's really involved. I can't just tell you in 5 seconds. And to train somebody too, because you don't want to do it the wrong way. It can be harmful. And it, like I said, it cost me way too much money to learn. I mean, it was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about $40,000. I know it's ridiculous. In order to be able to learn, because it's something that was passed down. So it's actually a secret cleanse. Because when I went through it, I'm like, who taught you how to do this? And then the person said, well, I was trained by somebody else. And then I tracked that person down and then spent a lot of money with them training me. And they're the ones who actually told me about this book. And when I read it, I was blown away. I'm like, oh my God. So this is all really interesting stuff. And Intermystic says, gratitude for sharing. And Audrey says, you really think he could invest in it? Who? Oh, Elon? I think if he saw what it could do, because guys, I'm telling you, the whole world doesn't even know about how to do this food thing. I also have other things that I want to do in order to help the body overcome almost any medical condition and truly wake you up to who you really are and what you can really do in your true potential. There's technologies, and I'm not going to go into why we're in the state we're in right now. It'd be a much longer video. And I think it's better suited for a very large platform and podcast. But I got a library inside of me, to be honest. And I've been holding back for years because it's been a process. And I think it's reaching a point where I have to talk about it, especially if I don't say anything and something happens to me, it all dies there. And so that's why I at least want to share the Stone People story, and then maybe in the future share more. So, okay, guys, I think that's it. I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time on the next one. If I can figure out how to turn this off here. What am I missing here? How do I hang up? It's got to be, right? That's not it. How in the world doesn't make any sense? I gotta say, I'm not very good with computers. Can you believe that? I can't even figure out how to hang up. How's that possible? There's got to be a button. What in the heck? Sorry, guys. You guys can go if you want. I mean, you guys can ask questions if you want. It's the red button. There is no red button. Oh, up here. Okay, guys. See you later, I think. Let's see. I don't trust Elon at all. He will just steal what you tell him. Well, I have information about that too, but I won't get into that. Okay. Thanks, guys. Till next time.